Boker Tov, Kita, Gon, and Olive. I want to let everybody know, especially in my Olive class, that we are welcoming Gon to our video today. So hopefully everybody's watching, and we have welcomed Justin, Logan, Libby, Sadie, Simon, Blake, Matthew, and Henry in the Gon class. And in Olive class, we have Emmett, Haley, Sophia, Ellie, Max, Sarah, Mason, Taylor, and Evie. So we're all in this together. So what we've been doing for the last few weeks is we've been talking about the story of Passover. For the last 2 weeks, we learned about the story of Passover and how it came about. Today, we're going to talk about the symbols of Passover. So now it's time for our morning question. Gon class, you will find out next year, but every day we start the class with a morning question. And we discuss, and everybody talks out loud. And you're allowed to say, I don't know. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you the morning question now, and then after you listen to all our guest speakers for the morning question, you're going to pause the video and you're going to ask your family the morning question. So the morning question this week is, if you could invite anybody to your Seder, who would it be? So I would invite Derek Jeter, because we have been very big Derek Jeter fans since he came to the Yankees in the mid-90s. And it's always nice to have a stranger at your Seder table. So I'm thinking I would invite Derek Jeter.
Hi everyone, it's Morah Stacy. I hope you're all doing well. So if I could bring anybody this year to my Passover Seder, it would be my little friend Fluffy. Fluffy is my guinea pig, and his favorite food is karpas. So it would be perfect to have him at the Seder because he would eat everything all up. Have a happy Passover.
If I could invite anyone to my Seder, I would invite Libby, Logan, Sadie, Blake, Henry, Justin, Simon, Leah, and Morah Stacy. We always have such a fun time learning about holidays together. You guys ask really great questions, and I think we would have so much fun at a Gon Seder. I really miss you guys. Hope to see you soon.
Shalom, Kitty Noah. If I were to invite anybody to my Seder, it would be Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, former Chief Rabbi of the United Kingdom. I would do this because it'd be interesting to see how the customs of Seders in Britain would compare to the customs of Seders in the United States. If
I could invite anyone to my Seder, I'd bring my dog Maya, because we never get to spend the Seder with her.
If I could invite anyone to my Seder, I would invite Miss Debbie and her family.
Okay, if I could invite anyone to my Seder, I would choose to invite my friends who aren't Jewish so that they could get a taste of what it's like to be at a Seder with a Jewish family.
Hi, Kita Olive. Hi, Gon. I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday morning. For the question of the day, if I was to invite anyone to my Passover Seder, who would it be? I would invite my Bubby because my Bubby is one of my favorite people and I love spending the holidays with her. And I'm going to come over and, Al, can you tell everybody who would you invite to your Passover Seder? Who's on the TV? Huh? Who would you invite? I'll tell you. Al's not so verbal about this right now, but she would bring Luli. Luli is her favorite character and her favorite TV show. So that is who we would invite to our Passover Seders if we were not at home. Have a great day.
I am here at Temple Shalom with everybody's favorite Wheela Tefillah. And who would I invite to my Seder if I could invite anybody? First, this year I would invite anybody to my Seder, but I can't. And in a normal year I would like to have my parents there. That also would be nice. They often can't make it. So my parents is answer one. A historical figure, I would like to have Abraham Lincoln. I feel like Abraham Lincoln would be an awesome Seder guest. He'd have some thoughts on slavery, on the Bible. I feel like he would really be a good guy to have over. Chag Sameach. Have a great Passover.
Shalom Kita Aleph. It's Rabbi Cece here with Sandy, Albus, and Minerva. And if I could invite anyone to my Seder, I would invite Miriam from the Exodus story, because she'd bring her tambourine and she'd sing with me, and we'd do a lot of great singing at our Seder, and I'd get to hear about the Exodus firsthand. Chag Sameach, everyone.
If I could invite anybody to my Passover table, I think I would invite Bruno Mars, because I'm a big fan of Bruno Mars, and I think if he sang all of our prayers, it would be amazing. So definitely Bruno.
The person I would want to invite to my Seder would be James Earl Jones, because it would be so cool to hear him read the Haggadah.
I would invite Kevin Hart to my Seder because I think that his reading of the Haggadah would be unmatched.
If I could bring anyone to my Seder, I would bring Michael Strahan. I would bring him because I'm a huge football fan, huge Giants fan, and a huge fan of him. As you can see, huge Giants fans. And most importantly, it's always nice to include someone new into your Passover Seder.
So we started talking about Passover. And what does Passover exactly mean? Passover is the Jewish holiday that happens in the springtime, and it occurs on the 15th day of the month of Nisan. It lasts 8 days, and it celebrates the Jewish people's exodus from Egypt. So during the last 2 weeks, we've talked and learned all about the Jewish people and how they were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt. But when Pharaoh told Moses to take your people and leave Egypt, that's what the story of Exodus is. So Exodus actually means they were exiting Egypt, because Exodus means to leave or get out. So Passover, or Pesach in Hebrew, celebrates the story of the Jews leaving Egypt, and Exodus, which should be a new word to you, it means to leave or to get out. When they left in a hurry, the Jews, because they had to leave as soon as Pharaoh told them to leave, they had to take only the belongings they can carry on their body, and they couldn't wait for their bread to rise. So what is that called? Does anybody remember? You can tell your parents if you know what we ate, or we're going to eat for 8 days. We're going to eat matzah. So I have matzah here. Matzah is your flat bread that is unleavened and it didn't rise. So what happened is they were leaving and they took their matzah out of the oven and it was flat. And it became a cracker. It's a little dry, I'm not going to lie. So the matzah is the unleavened bread that we eat on Passover. One of the customs that the Jewish people have around the world do is they celebrate Passover, and everybody pretty much celebrates Passover, but it's celebrated differently throughout the world. Everybody may tell the story, but it may tell it a little bit different. But most people do celebrate Passover. On the first night of Passover, we have a Seder. A Seder is the actual festive meal, the festive holiday meal that we eat on Passover. The word Seder means order. So Exodus means to leave. Passover means to pass over. Seder means order. So during the Seder, which is the festive meal, we retell the story of how the Jews exited Egypt. Some tell the story and it could take hours. Some tell the story and it can be the abridged version. It's very, very quick. But pretty much everybody tells the same story. But what we do is we read aloud out of a Haggadah. And it's a mitzvah to tell your sons and daughters the story of Exodus, the story of Passover. So it's a mitzvah to tell your family the story of Passover. And during the Passover meal, the Seder, we read out of a book called a Haggadah. There are many, many, many different Haggadahs. But it's still the same story. So I have plenty of different Haggadahs. Maybe yours look like mine, maybe they don't. I have one that looks like this. I have one that looks like this. And we have one that looks like this. I even have a 30-minute Seder. And then I have a children's Seder, a children's Haggadah. So it doesn't matter what your Haggadah looks like. Your Haggadah tells the story of Passover. So then, while we're telling the story of Passover, it comes to our Seder plate. So mine is not very colorful. I wish I actually had a different one. So on our Seder plate, we have lots of different things. So I have pictures. I don't have the real item. So on the Seder plate, we put something called haroset. Haroset is your sweet apples, nuts, wine, and cinnamon. So the haroset is supposed to represent the mortar that the Jewish people used when they were building castles and buildings in Egypt. The mortar is what goes between the two bricks to hold it together. So that's what the mortar is. The haroset is. The next thing that we add to the Seder plate is our karpas. It's the green vegetable. It's usually parsley, but it can really be anything you want. And the karpas represents the freshness of spring. Then we have the roasted egg. And you can see my egg is hard boiled. And then it was put into the oven, so it was a little bit baked. The egg symbol is a symbol in many different cultures, and it symbolizes renewal and springtime. So that usually the chicken comes from the egg, so that the egg means that we just keep moving on and we keep living. The next thing is a shank bone. The shank bone commemorates the lamb which was sacrificed on the night that the Jewish people left Egypt. The next thing that's on my Seder plate is salt water. So we put salt water on to remember how hard it was and our tears and our sweat when we were slaves. The last thing that we put on is the maror, which is the bitter herbs. This is very, very spicy. I bet you a lot of you children do not eat the bitter herbs. This is to remind us of how hard our lives were under Pharaoh. So typically on your Seder table, you have 1 cup of wine for Elijah. Elijah is a prophet that people believe is the Messiah, which we'll get into in a couple years in Hebrew school. But a lot of people think that Elijah is going to bring great things to the world and to the Jewish people. So we keep a glass on the table for Elijah Sometimes people have an extra seat at their table. Sometimes people leave the front door open in case Elijah wants to come in and join their Seder. In my house, we add a second cup. We add a cup called Miriam's cup. And this celebrates what the women did during the Exodus of Egypt. So, after you have your festive meal, and after you've drank all your wine, and you've had your matzah, and everything is delicious, we have to have dessert. So, what we do is we play a game. We look for the afikomen. Does anybody look for the afikomen at their house? So in our house, we hide the afikomen in a little bag, and then the person who's leading the Seder gets to hide it. And sometimes you can get candy when you find it. Sometimes you get money. It all depends on what your family's custom is. But afikomen actually means after or dessert. I'm sorry. So the afikomen is your dessert. So you play this game after dessert. So that's all I have about the symbols of Passover. I want to wish everybody a lovely, lovely Passover. I hope your Seder is meaningful, and wishing everybody a Zisen Pesach. So what we're going to do is you're going to find attached to this email different activities that you can do. They are not mandatory. They are purely for fun. We would have done them in class, but use your judgment as to whether you want. I have mazes of helping Moses through the desert, finding the afikomen, helping Moses find the burning bush, the princess finding the baby, and then there's even a small little word search. So feel free to do these, or feel free not to do these, but they're just fun. Now, I have a few songs that I'm going to send to you. I'm only going to try to sing one. Please don't laugh, because I really can't carry a tune. But these are songs that I've sang for years and that we've sang at our table. There are a lot of them I sang with my preschoolers. I sing them with my first graders. I brought these songs to our family Seder table when my kids were little, and our whole entire family has sang them. So the first one I am going to try to sing to you is called the Seder Plate song, because we talked about the Seder Plate. But I'm going to include Building Cities, which is bang, 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 hold your hammer low. I'm going to include Listen, King Pharaoh. And then the Frog song, which is One Morning. And Where is Baby Moses? And I've been working on the pyramids. Feel free to sing these songs at your house. Incorporate them into your Seder. Just enjoy. Make it fun. So, I'm going to try the Seder Plate song. We'll see what happens. Parsley green, number 1. That's 'cause springtime has begun, for it's Pesach now. That's how we celebrate. See what's on our Seder plate. Haroset is number 2. Sweet like freedom, good for you, for it's Pesach now. That's how we celebrate. See what's on our Seder plate. Maror, number 3. Bitter herbs for slavery, for it's Pesach now, that's how we celebrate. See what's on our Seder plate. Shank bone is number 4, lamb's blood marking on the door, for it's Pesach now, that's how we celebrate. See what's on our Seder plate. Hard-boiled egg number 5, it is good to be alive, for it's Pesach now, that's how we celebrate. See what's on our Seder plate.
This is the matzah that Papa brought home. This is the matzah that Papa brought home. This is the feast that Mama made with the matzah that Papa brought home. This is the Passover Seder we shared to eat the feast that Mama made with the matzah that Papa brought home. And this is me standing tall and proud to ask the 4 questions nice and loud during the Passover Seder we shared to eat the feast that Mama made with the matzah that Papa brought home. And these are the 10 plagues that we counted, all 10, by dipping our pinkies again and again. After I stood up tall and proud and asked the 4 questions nice and loud during the Passover Seder we shared to eat the feast that Mama made with the matzah that Papa brought home. And this is Dayenu, a very long song that we sang with our stomachs growling along. After we counted the plagues, all 10, by dipping our pinkies again and again. After I stood up tall and proud and asked the 4 questions nice and loud during the Passover Seder we shared to eat the feast that Mama made with the matzah that Papa brought home. These are the bitter herbs that we dipped after Dayenu, a very long song that we sang with our stomachs growling along. After we counted the plagues, all 10, by dipping our pinkies again and again. After I stood up tall and proud and asked the 4 questions nice and loud during the Passover Seder we shared to eat the feast that Mama made with the matzah that Papa brought home. This is the matzah ball soup that we sipped after the bitter herbs that we dipped after Dayenu, a very long song that we sang with our stomachs growling along. After we counted the plagues, all 10, by dipping our pinkies again and again. After I stood up tall and proud and asked the 4 questions nice and loud during the Passover Seder we shared to eat the feast that Mama made with the matzah that Papa brought home. And this is the afikomen I found while searching the house and running around after the matzah ball soup that we sipped, after the bitter herbs that we dipped, after Dayenu, a very long song that we sang with our stomachs growling along. After we counted the plagues, all 10, by dipping our pinkies again and again. After I stood up tall and proud and asked the 4 questions nice and loud during the Passover Seder we shared to eat the feast that Mama made with the matzah that Papa brought home. This is the door we opened wide, inviting Elijah to step inside. After the afikomen was found by searching the house and running around. After the matzah ball soup was sipped. After the bitter herbs that we dipped. After Dayenu, a very long song that we sang with our stomachs, growling along. After we counted the plagues, all 10, dipping our pinkies again and again. After I stood up tall and proud and asked the 4 questions nice and loud during the Passover Seder we shared to eat the feast that Mama made with the matzah that Papa brought home. Finally, next year in Jerusalem, we said, after the door was opened wide, inviting Elijah to step inside, after the afikomen was found, by searching the house and running around, after the matzah ball soup that we sipped, after the bitter herbs that we dipped, after Dayenu, a very long song that we sang with our stomachs growling along, after we counted the plagues, all 10, by dipping our pinkies again and again. After I stood up tall and proud and asked the 4 questions nice and loud during the Passover Seder we shared to eat the feast that Mama made for the matzah that Papa brought home. Now the Passover moon shines its beams, bringing the children of Israel sweet dreams, and we will remember the stories and matzahs our mamas and papas brought home. The end.
A holiday alphabet book. P is for Passover. A is for afikomen, the search will be fun. The broken matzah is hidden, our story begun. B for burning bush, flames Moses saw. God sent him a message, he listened in awe. C for haroset, nuts, apple, and wine. We eat it at Seder, add cinnamon to mine. D for Dayenu, the thank you we sing for all God has brought us for freedom each spring. E for Elijah, front door open wide. We fill up his cups and welcome him inside. F for feast, Seder meal we share. To honor our freedom, I relax in my chair. G is for gefilte fish. Graham makes it from scratch. Puts horseradish on it. I'll eat a whole batch. H is for Haggadah. Let's follow along. Read the Passover story and sing along. I is for infant, adrift in the water, found in a basket by Pharaoh's young daughter. J is for journey, we relive it each year, a trip across the desert to land free from fear. K is for canadle, so fluffy and hot. Matzo balls in my soup sure hit the spot. L is for l'chaim, to life we all cheer. Aunts, uncles, and cousins all join us each year. M is for matzah, flat bread made of wheat, quickly baked before fleeing. It's crisp to eat. N is for Nisan, full moon rises bright when Passover starts on this month's 15th night. 1 is for One Little Goat, a song that I love. The goat gets in trouble and is saved from above. P is for Passover, or Pesach, some say. We celebrate freedom on this holiday. Q is for 4 questions my brother recites. Why is this night different from all other nights? R is for Red Sea that parted so wide, how everyone danced when they reached the other side. S is for Seder plate filled with 5 things. Taste the maror and the bitterness it brings. T is for 10 plagues that gave Pharaoh a fright. Hail, grasshoppers, frogs, and a day burned to night. U is for unleavened bread. Also sweet cakes. My favorite's the brownies my dad always makes. V is for vegetables to remember slavery years. They're dipped in salt water, which remind us of tears. W is for wine that Aunt Liz helps me pour. I fill each glass once, then again 3 times more. X is in Exodus, that Moses once led. Away from the Pharaoh, the Hebrews all fled. Y is the youngest who plays the big part, the small person asking 4 questions so smart. Z is the sleepy sound the kids make. The Seder was fun, but we can't stay awake.